Welcome back to our channel. Today we're diving into a powerful story about redemption, the consequences of unchecked prejudice, and the courage it takes to make things right. It's a tale of two lives colliding: a seasoned police officer whose bias leads to a life-altering mistake, and an innocent young man who refuses to let injustice define him. What happens when assumptions turn into actions that can't be undone? And how does one person rise above the pain to spark meaningful change? Stick around to find out. If you enjoy thought-provoking stories about justice, growth, and the human capacity for transformation, don't forget to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this message, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring content. Officer William Parker was a seasoned cop, confident in his instincts and experience. But over the years, he had developed unchecked prejudices, biases he never fully acknowledged, but that deeply influenced how he approached his work. One fateful day, those biases came to the surface when he encountered Jonathan Harrington, a young man from a respected family, simply walking home. Jonathan, dressed casually and minding his own business, caught William's attention for no reason other than his appearance. Without any real cause, William stopped him, questioning and treating him like a suspect. The encounter quickly turned into an unnecessary confrontation, leaving Jonathan confused and humiliated. For Jonathan, it wasn't just about being singled out. It was about the unfairness of being judged for something entirely beyond his control. The fallout was swift. Jonathan's father, Senator Harrington, ensured the matter didn't get brushed aside, and the police department launched an investigation into William's actions. The decision to place William on administrative leave sent shockwaves through the station, leaving him to grapple with the consequences of his judgment. While Jonathan struggled with the emotional scars of the experience, William faced growing scrutiny from the media, his peers, and even himself. Both men were left to confront the weight of what had happened, one as a victim of prejudice, and the other as its perpetrator. Officer William Parker was a man consumed by his own guilt. Placed on administrative leave, he found himself grappling with the consequences of his actions, his once stable life now teetering on the edge. Fear of losing his badge and the career he'd worked so hard to build weighed heavily on him, but it was more than just his job at stake. At home, the tension with his wife Laura was palpable. She tried to be supportive, but even she struggled to reconcile the man she loved with the mistakes he had made. Alone with his thoughts, William began to reflect on his past behavior. For years, he had convinced himself that his instincts were reliable, that he was just doing his job. But now, as he replayed the incident with Jonathan Harrington in his mind, he couldn't deny the truth. His biases had clouded his judgment, not just in this case, but in countless others. The realization was a bitter pill to swallow. His actions had caused harm, not just to Jonathan, but likely to many others who had crossed his path. Meanwhile, Jonathan Harrington was navigating his own storm of emotions. Sitting at the dinner table with his parents, he shared his frustration over what had happened. It wasn't just about the humiliation he felt that day. It was about the larger systemic issue of prejudice that people like him faced every day. His mother, Evelyn, reminded him of how proud they were of his strength, while his father, Senator Harrington, assured him that they would ensure justice was served. But for Jonathan, this wasn't just about seeking justice for himself. He wanted to create meaningful change so that no one else would have to endure what he had experienced. Instead of letting anger consume him, Jonathan felt a growing resolve. This was bigger than one incident, one officer, or even one department. It was about addressing a system that allowed biases to thrive unchecked, and he was determined to be part of the solution. After weeks of soul-searching, William Parker finally reached his breaking point. Sitting at home, he could no longer avoid the weight of his guilt. He knew he had to confront his mistakes, not just for his own conscience, but for the people he had wronged. With a deep breath and a pounding heart, William returned to the police station to request a meeting with Captain Mitchell. As he stood in the captain's office, he finally admitted the truth that had been eating away at him. "I was wrong," he confessed, his voice heavy with emotion. "I let my prejudices guide my actions, and I hurt someone who didn't deserve it. I've probably done it to others too, without even realizing it." It was the first time William had spoken those words aloud, and it felt like a burden being lifted off his chest. Captain Mitchell listened carefully, his expression stern but thoughtful. "It takes courage to admit when you're wrong," he said, "but words aren't enough. If you're serious about making amends, it's going to take action. Real action." William nodded, fully prepared to face the road ahead. He committed to sensitivity training and community outreach programs, determined to rebuild trust and prove he could be better. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, Jonathan Harrington was also thinking about what came next. The incident with William had been a painful reminder of how deeply prejudice ran, but Jonathan didn't want to stop at holding one officer accountable. Sitting down with his father, Senator Harrington, he shared an idea that had been forming in his mind. "Dad, I want to start something," Jonathan said. "Something that brings police officers and the community together, so people can actually understand each other." His father looked at him with pride, encouraging him to elaborate. Jonathan explained his vision for a program he wanted to call Bridging the Gap. The initiative would host workshops, town halls, and events where officers and residents could meet in non-confrontational settings, share their experiences, and learn from each other. Senator Harrington saw the potential and immediately offered his support. With his father's help, Jonathan launched Bridging the Gap, starting with a pilot program in their city. The initiative quickly gained traction, attracting attention from local leaders and community members who were eager to foster better relationships. While Jonathan focused on creating spaces for dialogue and understanding, William took part in the program as a participant, attending workshops and listening to the stories of those he had once feared or misunderstood. For both men, these steps were just the beginning. William was working to rebuild the trust he had broken, while Jonathan was using his platform to advocate for a broader cultural shift. Though their paths had crossed in conflict, they were now moving forward with a shared goal: to create a future where understanding replaced prejudice and trust replaced fear. William Parker's journey to redemption was anything but easy. As news of his misconduct spread, he faced harsh public judgment from his peers, the media, and the community he once served. Yet, despite the backlash, William remained committed to changing his ways. He took every opportunity to reflect on his actions, enrolling in sensitivity training and actively participating in the Bridging the Gap program. At workshops and town hall events, he sat quietly, listening to the stories of community members, people whose lives were shaped by the same prejudices he had carried for years. For the first time, William truly understood the impact of his actions and how deeply bias had hurt those around him. Slowly, he began to rebuild trust, not by words alone, but through his willingness to learn, grow, and take accountability. Meanwhile, Jonathan Harrington was making a difference of his own. Fueled by the desire to create lasting change, he used his voice and platform to advocate for justice and equity. He shared his story, not to dwell on his personal pain, but to inspire others to stand against prejudice and push for systemic change. With his father's support, Jonathan expanded the Bridging the Gap program to other cities, fostering understanding between law enforcement and the communities they served. The initiative quickly gained recognition for its positive impact, reducing tensions and encouraging honest conversations. Jonathan's leadership and determination inspired countless others to believe in the power of change. Together, he and William proved that while the road to redemption and justice is never easy, it's a journey worth taking when people are willing to learn, listen, and grow. Months after their lives first collided, William Parker and Jonathan Harrington found themselves face to face once again, this time at a Bridging the Gap event. The tension between them had lessened, but the memory of that fateful day still lingered in both of their minds. With a deep breath, William approached Jonathan, his voice steady, but filled with emotion. "Jonathan, I need to say this. I'm truly sorry. I can't take back what I did, but I know I was wrong. I judged you unfairly, and I hurt you. I've spent these months reflecting on my actions, and I'm working to change, but I know I have a long way to go." Jonathan looked at William, his expression thoughtful. "I appreciate your apology," he said, "but change doesn't happen overnight. It's going to take time, for you and for the system you represent. What matters is that you're committed to doing the work." The two men stood in silence for a moment, each reflecting on how far they had come. Then William extended his hand. Jonathan hesitated briefly, but then took it, shaking firmly. That handshake was more than a gesture. It was a symbol of shared accountability and a commitment to justice and growth. While the road ahead was still long, both men understood that change was possible when people were willing to listen, learn, and take responsibility for their actions. William Parker's journey didn't end with an apology. It was only the beginning. He continued to work on his biases, dedicating himself to sensitivity training and rebuilding trust within the community he once alienated. Slowly but surely, he began to earn back respect through his actions. Meanwhile, Jonathan Harrington's Bridging the Gap program blossomed into a national model, praised for reducing tensions between law enforcement and marginalized communities. Through workshops, town halls, and open dialogue, the program created real change, inspiring others to follow Jonathan's lead. At its core, this story is about accountability, growth, and the power of redemption. It reminds us that while we can't undo the harm caused by prejudice, we can choose to take responsibility and work toward a better future. Take a moment to reflect on your own biases and ask yourself, how can you contribute to a more just and understanding world? Change starts with all of us. Thank you for staying with us until the end of this powerful story about justice, growth, and the courage to change. If you found this story inspiring, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who might need to hear this message. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell for more thought-provoking stories that spark conversations and inspire change. Remember, it's never too late to grow, learn, and make things right. Let's all strive to create a more understanding and just world. Have a great day, and we'll see you in the next video.